Good morning
Good morning.
Good morning.
and welcome to Sunday Soul Day. Today we have Kevin Castillo, who is a certified purpose life coach, and we are so excited to have him on the show. Thank you so much for joining today, Kevin.
Thank you both. I'm so excited to share this space with you both. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, I thought we'd start with just getting to know you a little bit better. I know you and I have spent some time together. Kevin is a certified coach through the J. Shetty certification school. That's how I came about. But he was actually in the first cohort, and I was in the second. So we didn't actually have any sessions together, but I actually came across his social media, and he is just a phenomenal writer. And a lot of his quotes and content really resonated with me. And so I just reached out to him because I just felt the energy through his social media, and was just really grateful that he responded. And we've been talking ever since. So really excited to have him on the show today. I thought we'd just even start, Kevin, with just learning a little bit more about you. So take us through your background a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually haven't told my story aloud in quite a while, so this should be fun. But
Amazing.
yeah, I mean, about me, I'm Kevin. I am from the East Coast. I live in Jersey. I was born in Flushing, Queens. So New York City, I've lived about 10, 15 minutes my whole life. I was raised in a small town called West New York, New Jersey. Every time I say it, I have to explain it and let people know that it's in Jersey. It's like overlooking the Hudson River. It's pretty cool now. I mean, there's a lot of luxury buildings and things up and coming, but back then there were definitely, it was kind of an underprivileged, disadvantaged community, and so I grew up with very little. I don't like to say nothing because I think at the very least we have we have opportunity. I am super optimistic. I wake up every single day with that mindset, thinking that it's just another day to start over or keep going or whatever it is. And so for that reason, I do find myself often saying that I grew up with very little. I had to share a one-bedroom apartment with two siblings and my dog for most of my upbringing. I didn't move out till I was like 23, and so you can imagine those conditions and how tough that was. But I think what speaks to me and my story, I was born to immigrant parents who came from the Dominican Republic to the U.S. again with very little, no real education, no money, only speaking Spanish, and so. We also lived many years with my dad in and out of the home, so I didn't really have a strong presence of a father figure in the household, and so I think because of that, I had to look elsewhere and kind of take a look at what was what I was aligned with and what spoke to me, and what were some of the values that I guess I was missing because I think both parents serve a purpose. I mean, anybody in your life serves a purpose, anything really, any situation, any experience, and I think with a lot of people in my life and just seeing how that same sort of situation has affected them. I think I also recognize the agency and the power of like choosing a different perspective and how to respond to that at a very early age. I think has gotten me to where I'm at today. But you know, with the lack, I guess, in what I had, the one thing I did have was kind of that ability to observe my circumstances and understand, you know, how they could serve me for the better. I think life happens for you and not to you. And so, again, we didn't have much, but I had a front row seat to watching my mother strive to do anything that she could to, kind of keep the lights on, if you will, put food on the table. And don't get me wrong, there were many days with power going out, light bill overdue for 8 months. I feel like I remember that stuff vividly. Barely any food in the fridge. I didn't really eat breakfast consistently until like my adult life now. I've always been a pretty skinny guy, and up until now, I've kind of had my fitness journey, and I've corrected all of that. But those were some of the things that I had to deal with kind of back then. Again, and although we didn't have really any food, any light or anything like that, we did have family. We had love, we had support, we had optimism. I've grown up with very strong women in my life, and I feel like I connect better with women for that reason. And so I am so appreciative and grateful for any women on this earth because of that. But growing up, I felt like I was a different type of kid. I played baseball from the ages of 5 through 13. In my culture, that's like the biggest thing. Um, when I didn't really have any other interests outside of that. I was kind of focused on my studies. I think I wasn't really a good student. I was kind of B's and C's, pretty average just to get by. But I think being first generation, it kind of feels like something that you're supposed to do, right? It feels like something that you've got to complete to be able to make your parents proud. Like you think about it, the immense sacrifice that there is in two people coming at 19, 20 years old to start over a whole nother life, a different language, and not knowing where to start, just to be able to give their kids opportunity, right? And so I'm so grateful and I'm so appreciative for that. And again, because of that, it was school and sports, right? I wanted to be a sports journalist at when I was in the seventh grade. And so, but I got to high school. I joined the track team. My baseball days were over. I would go on to kind of run all 4 years. But again, throughout high school, I wasn't really interested in partying or going out or looking to date really or any of that. I think my first girlfriend, high school girlfriend, was like 17 years old. But very early, I definitely realized kind of my responsibility and the role that I had to take on for my family. I kind of felt missing that. It was my responsibility to kind of be the provider, work as much as I could to try to, make enough money to pay the rent. When I graduated high school, I got a job at Best Buy. I went on to work there for about 3 years. But I was doing valet jobs on the side. I was doing valet jobs on the weekend, literally trying to get anything to kind of alleviate that pressure from my mom because I saw how much of a toll it took on her. I saw her work overnight jobs. Coming from West New York, I mean, you can imagine in a big kind of metropolitan area or big major city how terrible parking is anywhere in the US right now, right? And so it was as terrible in that small town. It's like a mile long in the country. And so that I remember vividly, there was once where I couldn't even find parking one time. I was looking for 4 hours and I gave up and I knew that my mom would wake up at 2 a.m. to go to work. And I literally double parked outside of my building waiting for her to, kind of leave so I could take her parking spot. And those were kind of some of the challenges. But again, I quickly became that provider. My family became my biggest priority in life for as long as I can remember, and they forever will be. Because like I said, I'm so appreciative of that love and that support. You mentioned my writing in the beginning, and I absolutely do love writing. I love words. I love lyrics. I love putting things down on paper, and I mean that kind of speaks to me wanting to be a sports journalist. Right? It was kind of like blending those two passions, but I quickly realized there wasn't going to be any money in that, and it wasn't really going to be a means in which I could support my family. I was able to thankfully, as a junior in college, get a job at Tesla, one of the more prominent companies in the world today. It was kind of in its startup phase then, but I went on to work there for about 5 years. And I'm so grateful for the relationship that I cultivated there. But I went on again. I went on to stay there. Keeping that big goal in mind to be able to buy my mother a house and get them out of I used to say terrible living conditions. I don't really like to use that word because of the connotation of it, but I wanted to get them in a much better condition. And I was thankfully able to do that at the age of 25. And again, I don't really like to hone in on or focus on the age because I think everybody's journey is different. I think everybody's timing is different. And I mean, it's the same achievement if I were to do it at 40 or 50. But thankfully my jobs and my life experiences and like my mindset and everything that I kind of cultivated and put together up to that point allow me to kind of keep that in mind and be able to do that. And so towards the end of my time at Tesla, I was able to land another amazing job opportunity. I left Tesla to go on to work for Meta, Facebook. This was a journey in itself. I mean, that job required me to kind of uproot my entire life, right? Having just bought my family a home, having to deal with the pressures of moving. After an 8-month experience in like a really bad housing market, I'm sure it's still pretty difficult today. But that coupled with, worrying about my stay, where am I going to live in a brand new city all by myself? I had never done it, before my relationship, right? I was kind of 2 years in. At the same time, having two recent deaths in my family. So there was a lot happening at once, but I mean, that time alone and away was pivotal. It's an experience that I cherish deeply today, and I think I forever will be. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but that's a little bit about my background.
No, thank you so much for taking us through that. And I mean, your background is incredible. I definitely want to go back a little bit because you mentioned mindset and kind of growing up in a disadvantaged neighborhood, but talk about those experiences. Like what kind of things did you face? Because I can imagine, and even though you weren't in the big city of New York, but still it's not far away. I can imagine that there was things that could have pulled you in a completely different direction, but you seem to have like such a focus on your family, sports, and things like that. But what sort of things did you face? Like, what challenges did you face? And tell me just how that, like, your mindset and determination, like, helped you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'll talk a little bit about the good and the bad because I think you can learn from both. But I think if I examine the challenges or the disadvantages in my own household, kind of just taking a look around at like I said, we have very little, we don't have much, but I still see my mom go up and go to work and like try to make it any way that she could, right? Try to like provide for us. I think watching the strength, the resilience, the drive, the work ethic, coupled with, I mean, my mom, my mom is my queen, and it's like the kindness, the love, the empathy, the support, being resourceful, taking initiative, not being afraid to take risks. I think those are all things that I am passionate about now, and that I've been able to kind of cultivate in my character and in my mindset. But I think the circumstances as well, taking a look at some of the negatives, I mean, there was gang violence literally every corner, right? Like I would get home from school and I had to do my homework, right? Or my mom wouldn't let me go to the park. And so sorry about that. My mom wouldn't let me go to the park. But you know, I would step out, there'd be a gang, on the left, a gang on the right. I remember one time falling from my bike, and thankfully there was a member of the gang who actually picked me up one time. But a lot of times you get ridiculed and you get, especially as a young kid, you get made fun of and things like that. So I think seeing that, seeing like the streets like riddled with drugs and things like that, seeing people, especially growing up, right, being in high school, like I think it's like the normal or the cool thing to do to go out to parties and go experiment with drugs and things like that. I think that's become like a normal part of experimenting as a teenager. But I had the foresight and the mental fortitude, I guess you can say, and the strength and the perspective just to realize that me falling into any of those things wasn't gonna get me anywhere, right? I had a dream, right? Like my dream, I didn't know what it was gonna look like. I didn't know when it was gonna happen. I didn't know how it was going to occur. My dream was to get my family into better living conditions, and me falling into any of those things was gonna lead me down a darker place or a different road, and wasn't going to allow me to be where I'm at today. So I'm thankful for those experiences because, like I said, even the absence of my father and I have a good relationship, and people ask me all the time, I see people in my life, people that are close to me who have been in the same situation, but they have resentment towards their parent, and I don't. And I think I find myself saying often that we're all dealt with different cards. I don't know what I would have done coming to a brand new country, not knowing this language, being young, having a kid, and I don't know what that experience is like. It's not my experience; it's his experience. And he responded to, I know that my dad has good intentions and a lover of life and appreciates the little things, but that's the way that he responded to it. That doesn't mean that it's my reality. Like I have the power to change my reality and to cultivate my own life and my own family that I go to that I'll end up creating in the future. And so I think I had that foresight at the early stages of my life. It's only developed more through these journeys that I've been in. So yeah.
It's just amazing that, at such a young age that you had that foresight, just that mindset, because a lot of times it's so easy to fall through the traps of, just your environment, and circumstances. But really stayed focused on, your larger goal. And it just goes back to the power of goal setting, and having that North Star in mind. And your North Star was really your family and buying a home. And I know you are being modest, you are the example of humility, but it is incredible that you were able to do that at such an early age and buy your mom a home. So please know that. Okay, like there's people who go their whole life not being able to do that, and you were able to do it in your early 20s when people are usually screwing around and, trying to figure out who they are. And so I wanted to commend you on that. But Thank you so much. That was just incredible learning about your journey, and I know it'll resonate with a lot of the listeners. So I wanted to kind of pivot and talk about like how do you go from that, like, you know, your early experiences working in Best Buy and then literally getting a job at some of the biggest tech organizations. I mean, again, people go their whole life not working for these places. They use, you know, the services, they drive a Tesla, or they, you know, might even use Facebook. But what was that like? Like, what was your roles in those organizations? And just tell me about that.
Yeah, I thank you for that, Demisha. I am so grateful for my jobs and my experiences. I actually don't really like when people are like, your job is just a job, because I think your job is opportunity, is a means to be able to get to wherever you want to be in life. And I absolutely agree that you shouldn't let your job become your identity, right? But you should be appreciative and grateful and thankful for the blessing that it is that you get to go to work, right? Like whatever that case, you know, whatever it is, whether you're a mechanic, a valet like I was, whether you work in retail, whether you know you social work, whatever it is, like it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to like work together for the shared mission and like have an impact on others, whatever it is. But I think, yeah, I mean, if I can walk you through getting Tesla, I think was crazy to me because you know even having been there, it was so difficult. Like the percentage rate to get into Tesla at the time was insane. It was like really difficult to get in. People had to interview like 4 to 6 times. I think it was a right fit at the right time. I only interviewed with one person, and I'm so grateful for him. We still keep in touch. But he was an English major back in college. I was an English major. He went on to law school. He loved sports. You know, he was kind of from an underprivileged community, so we kind of we were aligned and resonated a lot of where we came from. And I think so much of life is a good fit, is what I've learned now, honestly. And I think that fit was my end. But it was crazy. I was making $8.38 at Best Buy when I started. And then obviously, you know, kind of through promotions got a little bit more. But when I got to Tesla, it was, I mean, the compensation was different. It was like I was like a kid at a candy store. Like I felt like I was around so many smart people. I'm like, wow, the opportunities are endless. And I think they were. I think I met so many great people, so many relationships I've cultivated that I still hold today. I learned a lot. I mean, even in my quest to buy a home, like I was probably 21 when I first started Tesla. There was a guy I remember. He was 29 years old, had like a great credit score, like 830, had just bought a home like 2 years ago. And I'm like, wow, like it's so crazy that a job like this provides me the opportunity to pick people's brains, right? Like even like it's not all professional. I can, you know, on a lunch break or something, pick his brain about a personal goal. And I think being in that environment, I think was great. I mean, I think it was challenging throughout the year. It was very fast paced, like super innovative, right? It was a lot of like big picture thinking. You had to have sort of this relentless work ethic. There was a lot of like the change of pace was something that got me through the years. But I think what I love most is I love people and coming together collaboratively for a shared mission, something that was doing good for the world. Because I mean, you look at Tesla's mission is to like accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, something like that. And it's like you're making the world a better place by something that you use every day, right? Like a means to get you somewhere else. But I think it's that and allowing me to cultivate the relationships that I have today. I mean, Meta, my biggest dream in life, other than buying my mother a home, was to work for Google. I saw that as like the mecca, right? The ultimate place that I wanted to be in. So when I got Meta, it was like, wow, these things are hand in hand, and their mission was community, to be able to provide people like with the means to message and converse, especially like you look at somewhere like the Dominican Republic, right, where my family's from, or other countries that don't have the resources. I think I was so proud of being a part of something like that. And the opportunities that it provided me, again, the people that I met. It was a journey in itself. But my role at Tesla was in the sales operations space. It was a heavy focus on the customer experience, something that I loved. Um, a lot of back end operations, and so I had to be kind of detail oriented and have a sense of urgency and things like that. Things that have helped me honestly, like in business today. And I think all those experiences have. But and then I transitioned. It was kind of a career pivot to recruiting, and again, it was something I saw as a fulfilling thing, right? I saw that opportunity that Meta gave me. I'm like, wow, how cool would it be to be able to provide people with opportunity, be able to provide somebody with a job that could potentially change their life? I think to me, that was the most fulfilling thing. I think I've always followed that, thankfully, and it got me to where I was at Meta. It was short lived, shorter than I expected, but I'm very grateful for my 10 months or so that I spent at Meta.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kevin. Part of my job is not just to hear what people say, but also to study their meta, no pun intended, communication and facial expressions. And as I'm watching you talk, you just radiate light. You are such a grateful person. You have it's just very clear just by your the way your face moves, the light in your eyes, just everything that you have been able to truly live by the concept that you had shared, that life happens for you, not to you. And what a role model you are just in that to so many people, especially when things have happened to us. We can get into victim mentality and poor me, and you're the example of we get through things.
Mm.
And it's just wonderful to hear. And thank you for sharing your story with
Ali,
us.
that is so good that you even said that, because what I noticed the minute that we got on a call and I started talking to Kevin, he radiates love. Like, that's just amazing. You know, just met him today and I couldn't agree more. So I just wanted to say that.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate you both. I just wanted to say one quick thing. Demisha, you said power of goal setting earlier, and Ali, in response to what you just said, I think it's important, and that I've been able to do this, but it's to recognize kind of the agency and the responsibility that I have to respond to things in a much more, you know, I pride myself in kind of being empathetic and patient and kind and doing my part in making the world a better place. And you know, I have so many people to thank, but I think my mother and my sister, their names start with Luz, and that's light. So similar to what you said, I appreciate the compliment, and it takes a village. So, but I'm very grateful.
Yeah. And, you know, I've shared in other interviews that it took me a long time to get to where it seemed like you were most of your life of being, it's about who you are and the character you have, and love. I was more competitive, and people were my opponent. I am where you are now. I am so grateful to be where I am today. But it took a while. And I had people like you inspiring me. So just know that what you do and who you are inspires so many people. And it's not natural for everyone. That some of
I
us.
appreciate that.
Yeah. What was the turning point or realization that inspired you to create a new vision for your life, and embark on the journey of personal development and coaching?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I love this question because I feel like I'm living it and embodying it now. But I don't know if it was necessarily like, I feel like I study, you know, I'm a lifelong learner. And so I love learning about people and their experiences and their journeys. And I feel like a lot of success stories, it's like, wow, I have a certain date, or I have a certain moment in which like my eyes lit up and I'm like, this is what like my life's purpose is, and this is what I'm going to follow. I think mine happened very randomly. I wasn't aware of it, but like I said earlier, I think having that time and space alone. I had just moved to Austin, Texas by myself, right? I was in a new city, new climate, learning to get to know new people. I had a lot of time on my hands, but I feel like to the outside world, you could easily look at my experience there. It only lasted about 5 months. It's supposed to be a year. Only lasted about 5 months, and you could easily say like that I didn't do much, right? Or that I didn't really leave the apartment or anything like that. But to me, that time was so special and so nourishing and so fulfilling, because what I did was I took the time to pour into me. I took the time to lean into me, to have conversations with myself, to like nourish my mind, my heart, my soul. I think that's time, you know, I'm grateful for my experiences and my circumstances, but something that I've learned is that time and space are so important, and I never had that growing up. And so me finally being alone in a completely different space, it almost feels like time is endless, right? And so I had all that time, right? Like it almost feels like the day is going to go on forever. And so I took the time to, I had stomach issues over the years. I got myself like a dietitian. I went to a new doctor. I got my diet right. I had a journey, right? A goal of like gaining weight because I was like the skinny kid. Running certainly didn't help. My stomach issues didn't help. And so, but I had a goal to gain weight. I feel like it's the opposite for a lot of people, right? Like they want to lose weight. And to me, I'm like, no, this is challenging for me. It's my journey. But I took that time to nourish that. I got in the gym. I've been going a year strong still. I took the time to learn. I took the opportunity to meet new people, go to different places. But I think that moment. I can't tell you where within that 5 months that vision was born, but it was born. I had come across Jay Shetty's program, and I had been a fan of Jay and his work for a couple years. And it was something that spoke to me. I did like this pathway thing to figure out if I could even be a life coach. I didn't really know what a life coach was. I actually played with becoming a therapist a couple years ahead of that because I knew I didn't really, I felt like I didn't have many passions in life other than music, sports, and writing. But I knew that there was something deeply rooted in me to want to help others. And I knew that because it was the impact that I had on coworkers, right? At Tesla, at Meta. It was the impact I had on my family. It was the impact I had on friends. And the questions I would always get: how do you wake up so positive? How do you wake up so optimistic? How were you able to buy your mother a home? Like things like that, right? That were never really, to me, it's never been about the accomplishment or the result or the numbers or anything that I've gained from it. To me, it's always been about that impact. And so I quickly realized that this could be a medium in which I could carry out that purpose to be able to impact others on a much more like magnified scale. But as you can probably still see, the tech industry has been, kind of turbulent over the years. And so I was in recruiting and I was going through a couple of hiring freezes. I was just kind of seeing what was going on in the economy. So I knew that I had the foresight to think like there was something coming down, right? Like I probably won't be at this job very long. And so I have to put myself in a better position to be able to like withstand that, right? And figure out like my next move. And so after going through that pathway program, I knew like I scored really high on the assessment, whatever it was. I'm like, it really felt something like positive and empowering, and something that I can carry out, something that I can do, something that can become my life's work. But I knew my life was going to pick back up. I had made the decision to move back to the East Coast. I had a Europe trip planned with my girlfriend for 2 weeks. So I got back in August. I didn't really settle into like at the end of September, early October. And that's when I decided to really go ahead and go through the program. And I mean, I think we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but that journey in itself was so transformational for me. But yeah, that's a little bit of when that vision was born for me.
Yeah. And thank you. You touched on taking time. And I think that that's so important, especially in our society when there is all this pressure to complete milestones at certain points, and we're in a rat race and we have to just go, 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 to find the strength to pull back, take a break, reassess, take care of ourselves. I also struggled with stomach issues, and now looking back, it's one of the greatest blessings because I know I'm not taking care of myself. I'm not in alignment with my mind, body, and spirit. And it's that reminder to really tap in and take care of myself. And just really taking the time to listen to ourselves. We know the answers. We just have to take time to listen.
Yeah.
So what did the Jay Shetty program do for you?
Yeah, I love that, Ali. I couldn't have said that better myself. I'm so like passionate about you have all the answers inside of you. Like life gets very cloudy, on an everyday basis. But it takes like the power of choice. Again, the agency stuff. It takes a conscious effort to like clear that up or find somebody that can help you clear that up. But to answer your question, I mean, like, what didn't the Jay Shetty program do for me? I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it changed my life. It made me learn so much of myself. Similar to what we were just talking about, I already had a lot of that within me, but it was clouded due to years of like working not nonstop, never taking any time for me. I didn't mention this earlier, but through the tail end of my time at Tesla, I got the opportunity to help open a brand new location, but it was in Princeton, New Jersey. I was from up north, so I literally had an hour and a half commute every day, to and back. So 3 hours of my day spent driving. I got home, didn't want to do anything. I knew I had to be at work the next day, so I didn't have time. Like literally, did not have time at all. And so having that time in Texas was like eye opening for me. And it allowed me to take that time for me. And and be able to focus on what nourishes me and my soul. And again, be able to like nourish me so that I can like pour into me so that I can pour on to others. I think it's so important, and why I'm so passionate about it. But the program, again, I mean, it allowed me to connect, I think, with a beautiful community of like-minded individuals who are doing like their part in making the world a better place. I mean, like, it's the reason why I'm here today, right? Like, I connected with Demisha recently. We missed each other by a cohort, but a connection on Instagram has bred this, right? And so, I think other than that, most importantly, it's provided me like with the resources and the support that I needed to be able to see this vision through, be able to see the certification through, and visualize what the next few years of my life would look like. I think something I learned early on in the program is that, again, I had all that stuff in me. Like, we were learning about things like emotional intelligence and empathy and patience. And those are things I pride myself on, and that I've exuded. But I really needed help with I needed guidance, like clarity and direction, which I feel we all need. I am so passionate about that. But particularly with the business stuff, I've never owned a business. I never even saw this as a possibility for me. I mean, if you could imagine that I didn't think I would ever work at some of the companies I've worked at. I mean, imagine owning your own business and that journey. But I think it's empowered me. It's reminded me and taught me that I can do anything I set my mind to. It's reminded me about like the power of community, and I'm very, very, very grateful for my 6 months or so spent there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I could not agree more. The Jay Shetty program, I said this when Ali interviewed me. It was a beautiful interview, but it changed, me in a lot of ways, but also allowed me to learn myself deeper than I'd ever learned myself. So really, really grateful. Shout out to Jay Shetty. How did you choose? This is a three-part question here, but how did you choose your coaching niche, and who do you serve? And how would you describe your business?
Oh, I love that. I'll dive right into that. I just want to say one quick thing. I thankfully had the opportunity to meet Jay while I was in the program, because I bought tickets to his book tour, and it was the very first show that he was doing. And I think it's such a surreal moment for me still, but I was able to like give him a hug and tell him directly, like, I literally, the words that came out of my mouth were, "You changed my life, man." And like his eyes lit up, and he wanted to introduce me to his business partner. He was busy, but just having that moment, having him meet my girlfriend asked him a question in the pre-show, and it was phenomenal. I remind every day, you have the unique experience that Jay literally gave you advice on something that you were struggling with. Like, cherish that. But and because of her, honestly, I probably wouldn't have gone to the show. So shout out to my girlfriend. She's my rock. But I wanted to mention that because it was a surreal experience for me. And I think everything up until that moment, I was able to express gratitude and share my thanks to him. I mean, for what he's built, it's been incredible. But how did I choose my niche? It's funny. I've sort of niche hopped around 3 or 4 times. I feel like anybody really studying my Instagram is probably like, what is this guy doing? He doesn't even know who he's helping people with. But what I will say is, I think that's perfectly okay, especially in like your journey of becoming and your journey of learning. Um, this is all new to me, and I've always felt like I have so much value to add to the world. I feel like there's so many different parts of me. I started with mindset and emotional intelligence, just two qualities that I feel speak to me most. I quickly realized that leaning into that, I had to get a little bit more specific from a business standpoint, and to be able to have that reach and that impact that I like so deeply desire. I then transitioned to kind of helping people that were feeling stuck, but that wasn't concrete enough to me. And then I finally landed to what I'm doing now, which I wholeheartedly believe, I am very confident that this is where I'm supposed to be. And I think it's been right in front of me all along. But I'm focusing on helping people find their purpose. You land on my Instagram, and my tagline, if you will, is my purpose is to help people, or my purpose is to help you find yours. And I think everything that I am passionate about, everything that I embody, everything that I've helped people with before, everything that I'm helping my clients with now encompasses purpose, right? It encompasses reconnecting with their passions. And I say that word, and I want to emphasize reconnecting, because I feel like there's a lot of people in life that feel like they're not passionate about anything. I mean, I was in that same boat from some of the stories that I told you earlier, but I think we all do have passions. It just gets clouded, and it gets suppressed, through everyday life. And so I think it's in us. I want to help people reconnect with their passions, find their purpose in life. I think we all have purpose. I also think your purpose isn't just one thing and one thing that you have to choose and pick and find for life. I think your purpose could absolutely change and that you serve different purposes. But I want to help people reconnect with their passions, find their purpose. I don't want to stop there though. I think that's my differentiating factors, that I am so big on completion. I am so big on I'm not going to start anything that I don't plan on finishing. And I feel like everybody's journey, like I said, everybody's timing is different, everybody's journey is different. And I know how easy it is to give up. I know how it feels to sort of feel like you're climbing a mountain that you won't ever reach to the top. And so I want to help guide people with like the principles and help people actually take action on their purpose, right? So it's not find your purpose and we end there. It's find your purpose and we're going to take action on it so that you can live a fulfilling, a peaceful and abundant life, whatever it is that you're after. So I think that's who I'm serving. I'm focusing a little bit more now from a business standpoint on like working professionals, because I mean, that's where I was at, kind of in the corporate tech space. But I'm open. I think the who is what I battled for a really long time. I'm open to helping anybody who feels that a little lost and a little hopeless and a little like directionless, right, and purposeless. Because I think that's the one thing that pains me, in seeing others like full of sorrow because they feel like they have no life, or because they feel like they have no purpose. And like it, if I can serve as that guiding light, or that simple reminder, that's what I look at my Instagram as, just one big reminder that you have purpose and that you can do anything you set your mind to. But that's why I serve. And forgive me, I forgot the last question, but I think it was a great one. So if you don't mind repeating it.
No, it's okay. You actually sort of answered a little bit, but how would you describe your coaching business? And you did it in your tagline. So
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I could add on to that, I mean, there's so many words I could use to describe it. I think I'm so passionate about it being a safe space, it being enlightening and empowering, instilling hope, um, and super supportive. I think is something that has been prevalent in my life and that I'm passionate about. But really like that guiding light in somebody else's journey. I firmly believe, and I tell my clients this, but it's not a coach client relationship. It's a human to human partnership. Like I think there's so much to be said about meeting people where they are. And even if you are an expert, right? Like it's not projecting any of your beliefs or your experiences or your stories. It's literally meeting people where they are and finding what the best way forward for them is, not for you or for you as a unit. It's literally like this is their journey and you're just the guiding light. You're walking side by side with them. So I think that's what speaks to, I guess, what my business is, or what I wanted to be for a very, very long time.
And as a therapist, I couldn't have said that better, of walking side by side, moving out of my own way and joining you on your journey. I think that's beautiful. Go ahead, Jamisha. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I was literally going to say the same thing. Like I love the way you describe the human experience. I think we get so hung up in our titles or our roles, and it really is a human to human experience. And that is so beautiful that you said that, and really meeting people where they are, not just in a coach client relationship or therapist client, but really just like in your personal relationships. Like you have to meet people where they are and really honor where they are, and not try and project your thoughts and expectations and all of these things. Like that's something I had to learn over the years. Like I would break my own heart, like early on in my 20s, like having expectations of others, like why don't they love the way I love, or why don't they do, I'm a 10-gallon, as TD Jake says, like I'm a 10-gallon full of love person, so but I've also kind of been met with folks that were kind of had like pint-sized capacities, to his quote that he says, and that's okay. Like they're giving you everything they got.
Yeah. Can I just mention something real quick? I want to share with you both. I want to share that wisdom that I referred to earlier that Jay gave my girlfriend. We were in like the pre-show meditation, and she asked, I hope I don't botch this, but she asked him something like, how could I stop caring about what other people think? And and again, I wish I had it like verbatim, but he said something like, I think it's understanding that I have to protect my peace, and I have to do that so much to the point that I don't turn into pieces that don't fit into somebody else's puzzle. And I think that for me was like mind blowing. It was like that perspective is incredible, but it speaks to what you just said. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, no, but thank you. I just enjoyed this conversation so much. But you have like over 10 months, I think now I'm doing the calculations of dedicated coaching experience. Like, what are some key insights that you learned along the way about yourself, but then also like your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean I love this work. I absolutely do. Like I you know, my girlfriend jokes about it, but I wake up and I'm like a green light because I'm so excited to be creative and to find different things to kind of apply to my business, apply to my clients' lives and things like that, different tools that can be valuable and beneficial. But I've learned so much. I think in life you are both a student and a teacher at all times. And I think some situations require for you to be the teacher and for you to be the student. Some require for you to be both. But I think that's the perspective that I take in this work and in meeting clients, right? And in examining myself really, because I am very like self-centered, self-regulating, not self-centered, but self-regulating. I'm very centered, right? I'm very like emotionally regulating and reflective and introspective and things like that. And so I've learned a lot. I mean, I've learned how powerful the mind is, first and foremost. I've learned that a large percentage of our worries are things that haven't happened yet or probably won't happen. I've learned that human beings are uniquely different, but I think it's that uniqueness that like breeds the power within all of us. And that's part of what I want to help people kind of like uncover. Uh, I've learned how pivotal a growth healthy mindset is. I've learned how important it is for us to like lean into our support systems. I've learned again, similar to what I said earlier, like we all have passions. I just feel like we all need a little bit of clarity and direction. Like nobody can go at this alone. Um, like I said, similar to that, I mean, I think it's so important that people have therapists and mentors and coaches and teachers and guides, whoever you can confide in for that clarity and that direction. But I've also learned, I think that a lot of us constantly seek and search for answers externally, but it's inward that we should be looking. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in doing this work and in the work that I do with my clients. But I've also learned how beneficial practicing mindfulness is, right? Like I've been trying to do a better job of meditating right before my session so that I'm my most present state and that I have like mental clarity and things like that. Not only that, Ali shared earlier, you know, that she has stomach issues too. I think it's helped tremendously with the stomach stuff because a lot of our worries and our anxieties and our stress and our pressures, we feel it in our body. And a lot of those stomach issues and those breathing issues are a result of kind of like what Ali said, being go, go, go and like not slowing down. And I think mindfulness has been a huge part. But I think the other thing that I've learned is to prioritize rest as deeply as the hard work because you know I spent several years being sort of in this tunnel vision phase of like I gotta work, like I gotta put in 150%. I gotta stay late, you know, at my jobs. I got you know I had this hour and a half drive, but I had to do it because it's the only way that I'm able to provide a better life for my family. But I think I quickly burnt out during
Yeah.
throughout the tail end of my time at Test, and I was so thankful and grateful that I found Meta. But I think being in that kind of toxic work culture, that kind of hustle grind, see like 100% of your energy and time towards that, I think is unhealthy. And I've learned how important resting, recharging, refreshing, relaxing, decompressing, doing nothing. I had a newsletter recently about literally the power about doing nothing. I think it's something that I am so passionate about that I implement in my day now. But it's equally as important as the hard work, if not more.
Thank you so much for that. What comes to my mind is worry, right? Or getting anxious. I think of the quote or the saying that worry is the greatest waste of creative energy because the mind doesn't know the difference between what's happening and what we're imagining. And practicing that mindfulness and being present and turning our mindset into positives, see what it does for us, right? Instead of worrying of what could happen. How often does anything ever turn out exactly the way we had worried it into happening? right?
Absolutely. I also I want to mention that I've learned actually very recently that you can't really turn your mind off. Like that's to me that's not realistic, but you can calm your mind, you can slow your mind down, right? Especially I feel like my brain moves like rapidly. Like it moves so fast. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that have dreams and visions and ideas and but I mean that stuff causes overwhelm if you don't slow down. So
Right.
I
And
resonate with that.
yeah, and before I go to the next question, that's kind of exactly what I wanted to touch on is that you experience the burnout of go, go, go. And it's one of the reasons Demisha and I created the Sunday Soul Day, or the reason we created the Sunday Soul Day is for us to pause, take that step back and fuel our mind, body, and our soul, because we can't keep going. We cannot keep going on fumes. We can for a little bit, and then we experience burnout, and then we're of no good to ourselves or others.
Definitely not.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the concept of this entire podcast because I think the soul is literally the source of all your perspectives and your values and the things you stand for, your character. Like literally in all in one, if you would, encompasses everything you are, all the beautiful parts about who you are. If we don't take the time to nourish that, that's when we become blinded and clouded and things like that. So I love this. I absolutely do, and I'm so grateful
Thank
to be a part of
you.
it.
Thank you. We're so glad you love it. We love it too. What are some common challenges or limiting beliefs you have observed in your clients, and how do you guide them in overcoming these obstacles? What like tools or strategies do you use?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like human beings are so complex. I think we all are, and so I think we all deal with different challenges, different limiting beliefs. I think what I've learned though is that we have power to be able to not suppress those. Like I'm so big on not pushing those to the side, but learning to work with them, learning to befriend them, and to use those to your advantage. Kind of like what you said, flipping some of those negatives into a positive. I saw an interview recently about Kevin Hart and like an audiobook or a podcast that he came out with about monsters that we have inside of. And I think those challenges, like if we're not mindful and conscious, those monsters can creep up and overtake us. And so to answer your question, I think some of the ones that I am passionate about helping people with, or that I notice in the everyday lives of people that I interact with and my clients are like comparison, I think is a big thing. People like deeply compare themselves to others. They compare their timing to others. They compare their journey to others. I think fear is huge. Like, fear is natural. We all deal with it, but it's prevalent in a lot of people's lives. I think self-doubt, right? Self-worth, confidence. We can go down kind of a rabbit hole with that. But overwhelm, I think is something I'm so passionate about. I've learned recently about the concept of analysis paralysis, or the paradox of choice, and that when we have too many choices, we don't know which one to pick, and then we end up kind of shutting down and not doing any of them. And I think that's what a lot of people deal with. I think ego gets the best of a lot of people. And then a few things that I'm passionate about and that I observe in the lives of others. I think embracing uncertainty is so important. Our relationship with failure and external validation, which I think goes back to the comparison thing. But if we take it a step further, it's like a lot of people, especially with social media. I posted a quote recently that your life is not an Instagram story, it's a real story. And again, we can go into like you are the author of your own life, you're the author of your own story, you have the power to write and rewrite. But I feel like a lot of people try to do things because it looks cool or it looks good, or because they want to show others that they're having a good time or living a happy life. But it's like you have to be able to do that stuff for you internally. You have to experience for you. And then maybe show it. It's okay with showing it. Like it's okay to capture moments, right? It's okay to photograph and record things so that you can look back at it. But I want to help people kind of lean into looking inward and having that intrinsic kind of motivation and drive to do things for them, not for others. But some of the tools that I've used in my work, I think auditing somebody's life is so powerful. Again, in the midst of everyday life, I think we become blinded and clouded, and it's hard to kind of separate and detach and take a look at like what's the very next step that we can work on, right? Like what's the next goal for you? I think we all can have a big picture, a big dreamer mindset, but it takes a conscious effort to slow down and take a look at the very next step right in front of you, if you will, as opposed to looking at the entire staircase. I think one of the tools that I came across with anything that I come across, like coaching wise, I try it out myself because I preach about this impact that I want to have. I never want to put something out there that I don't find impact or beneficial myself. But I experimented with a to be tool, and I think it was the most pivotal thing, right? It was, we all have to-do lists, or not all of us, but a lot of us create to-do lists, right? And I think it helps, right? Like with productivity, setting out your time and things like that. But I think a lot of times those actions aren't aligned with like who we want to be as a person. And I think that's what most people forget. And so a to-be tool to me is incredible because it aligns your actions with your core values and the greater version that you want to become. So that's something that I've used. Something that I'm so passionate about and I want to keep nourishing is visualization techniques and metaphor driven language, because I mentioned this to Demisha recently. Perspective is my favorite word. I think so much of life is just a shift in perspective that is required for you to move forward. And I think metaphor driven language I've seen in my sessions with my clients has been so powerful. And I think we all think differently. We all can imagine differently. So the challenge is finding something that speaks to your client and like what they're about and what their interests are. But I think that's so powerful. And I'm going to continue to do in my work because it provides an incredible shift. I think just something that speaks to me as a coach, but practicing silence more because my brain moves fast and because, I can kind of go on for days once I do get talking. I think practicing silence so that I allow my clients to have that space to hear themselves, hear their truths, be able to share that safely. And then just like actively and empathetically listening, something that I've prided myself on and will continue to, but something that I try to exude in sessions with anybody that I meet.
Amazing. Wow. Kevin, there's so much that you said and just so many gems that came out of everything that you just said, like from, the limited beliefs, the fear, the self-doubt, the comparison, Gene. And you and I did talk, but I love the word perspective too, because I think when people are able to shift their perspective, like in all of those areas, even with fear, all those things, like it really allows them to get unstuck, to your first niche.
Yeah.
It allows them to get unstuck and to get out of their own way, because a lot of times we're in our own way, like, and all of these things, like whether we're comparing ourselves to others on social media. And I tell people that is just a highlight reel. Like, a lot of times you don't know what is going on behind the scenes, and people want to put out their best self. It's very rare that people put out their vulnerable self or their real self,
Mm.
and um I love everything you said. Like, did any of those things come up for you, like as you were, kind of being a new entrepreneur in this coaching industry? And like, what was it like building a coaching business? Like you said, you've never built a business.
Yeah, that's a great question. You actually reminded me about something that I hadn't shared in that response, but I think imposter syndrome is huge. I think we all deal with it. I think um, it's something that I've dealt with, kind of getting out of the certification and continuing to, I wanted to continue to practice, right? Like I feel like getting the reps in is so important. And I didn't want to like lose side of like my abilities as a coach, or I felt like if I wasn't coaching for a few weeks that I was gonna lose it. Now I am very confident, firmly believe that coaching is in me, and I'm not gonna lose something that's in me because I am so connected to my why, so connected to my purpose, so connected to the qualities that I possess that make me a great coach and a good person. Um, so I've combated that, but I definitely dealt with that. I think the fear, I think the uncertainty is still huge in my life because I mentioned this to you, Demisha, recently, but I am in the most transformative space of my life at the same time, the most uncertain, because I was laid off from Meta back in November. And I think the blessing in it was that it allowed me to give 100% to my business and to learning and to completing my certification and to learning all there is to learn. It's a whole new world to me. I've never done it, and it's exciting, but at the same time, it's scary. Like we talked about fear. I mean, it's the scariest thing. A good friend that I met actually in the program told me, and I wrote it down, and I was reminded the other day, but she said, Kevin, building a business is the hardest thing that you'll ever do, but it's also the most rewarding. I think that's something that I continue to remind myself. I mean, this business thing has been a journey. I also think the coaching mindset and the business mindset are kind of on the opposite end of the stick or whatever you want to call it. I think it's about finding a healthy blend and a healthy balance between the two. And I think I am thankful that I'm coming into that now. I mean, it's been a journey, right? Like, how do you get clients, right? Or how do you tailor your messaging, right? How do you target the people that you actually want to reach? Like, you know, I had to like really sit down, reflect, take notes, try to learn. Like I said, I'm a super curious person. I'm a lifelong learner, and I feel like YouTube podcast interviews are my home because I immerse myself in that stuff because I want to be the best person that I can be. But I've been on the entrepreneurial journey, and so I've been leaning into a little bit about that. But it's been super. I mean, to talk about some of the feelings, it has been rewarding already. Maybe not monetarily, but I guess my soul, right, my mind, my heart, me as a person, the impact that I want to have, I am having, on people, and it's it's continued to, and it will continue to, I firmly believe, open up doors that I never imagined, right? Like the coaching journey has been incredible, and the journeys that have followed, um, and we'll get into some of the things that I have on the way, but I think those journeys that have followed have been tremendous and transformational. It's allowed me to learn a lot about myself, but it's also allowed me to continue to have that kind of forward thinking vision of moving forward and looking for more and ensuring that I do things the right way, right? Like I never want to do anything that doesn't align with me and my values, and I never want to become so business centered and focused and where I forget about the impact that I want to have. To me, it was always about having, making an impact, helping one other person a day. I am so big on kindness, and if I can take that action with one step at a day, I am fulfilled.
Thank you. So my next
Sorry about
question my next question is kind of two parts. So you touched a little bit on some of the challenges in starting a coaching business, and I want to hear a little bit more about how you have been overcoming some of those initial challenges. And then I'll ask you, just go ahead. I'll ask the next question after that.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. One, which is something I'm so passionate about, and and it's to allow yourself to feel, right? And I think I have to practice what I preach. And during this journey, I have allowed myself to feel because, like I said, you deal with all of those things, right? You deal with like insecurities and imposter syndrome and fear and not feeling good enough. But I think I've been able to combat that again by allowing myself to like accept my emotions, process my emotions, understand that although this journey is difficult, I am on the right path. Like I felt that way throughout the entire coaching certification. I'm like, I know this is exactly where I am supposed to be because I am doing things that feel so natural to me, but at the same time are allowing me to step outside of my comfort zone. And I think that's something that I shied away from, right? Like I was a quiet kid. In my jobs, I wasn't really vocal. That was my one piece of feedback, that I needed to be more of a vocal leader. Like I had managers tell me, when you speak, people listen. I think the coaching program, the coaching certification, has allowed me to use my voice more. Right, I want to get in the habit of showing my face more, and showing people. Right, I feel like that's what's going to allow me to relate to them. But I think that's how I've been able to combat myself, combat those pressures. Right, it's understanding that these things are a natural part of the process. And even if I combat it today, doesn't mean it's not going to happen next week. Right, so it's just having the mindset of like, all right, when I do, when fear starts to creep up, when imposter syndrome starts to creep up, excuse me, or any of these other things, any of these other monsters, right? I have the power to like combat it, right, and to move forward. But I think suppressing emotions and suppressing setbacks and failures and things like that isn't healthy and doesn't serve us. So I think it's also a part of like being curious, right? Like understanding what is the lesson that this experience is trying to teach me? Like this entire journey that I've been on over the last few months, like what are some of the lessons that I can apply to keep moving forward and really like reach the goals that I have with my coaching business. And again, keeping that why at the forefront of my mind, that it's to impact somebody else. I shared this with Demisha recently, but I came across, actually, I think a client shared this with me. She was very like faith driven, and she said that you're sort of like that you shouldn't feel bad, right, about like monetizing your passion. You're sort of like depriving the world of your gift if you don't. And so I've been trying to lean into that and remind myself of that.
Thank you. What are some of your aspirations and goals for the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like I'm so multifaceted. I do have to do a better job of slowing down. And again, like I said, I rest is so important to me now. But I just finished writing my first book. You know, that's been a journey. Like the coaching thing has been transformative. That really feels like it's my life's like work. I feel like almost, and I'll probably think about it differently in a couple of years. But it feels like it's me laying out my mind and laying out, like giving you part of my heart and like letting you share part of my soul, and that it's like a really supportive, like all the things we've talked about, love. Um, my book is called Cast Your Vision, proven principles to help you bring your vision to fruition. And it's on the same notion that we talked about before, about like helping people complete whatever they set out to, right? Like I feel like a lot of people in life are big dreamers, but I want to help them become doers and actually like execute and follow through and things like that. So I mean, that's been a journey in itself. I am in the editing, publishing phase, if you will. I'm trying to figure out what the best approach is for me, but I can't wait to share that with the world. I can't wait to share with you both, with my loved ones. I actually want to get it translated initially, well, not initially, but sort of at the same time. I want to get it translated into Spanish as well, because I can't wait to share with my uncles and aunts and my entire family, like back in DR. But it's all of me. I'm so proud. It lights me up in speaking about it because I'm so passionate about it. And I was gonna do steps. I was gonna do values, but I chose to call them principles because there are things that I've learned along the way on my journey that I can't wait to share with the world. But that's another big goal that I'm hoping comes soon, that I can share that soon. I want to have a podcast, right? Um, but I want to. I think I'm about a year or two out from that. I don't really want to put a time frame on it, but that's something else. I've been trying to like brainstorm names and stuff like that now. I've done a lot of research on it, so I know it's coming at some point. So I want to do that. I was thinking about this the other day, but my girlfriend and I usually have sort of these deep, nourishing conversations, and an idea came up, right? And eventually, I do want to do something that is charitable and representative of me serving and giving back with no monetary gain at all. And even if it is, I want that to be towards a good cause. But I want to help serve like underprivileged communities. I want to do something like massive in which I can have impact on like kids who look like me, kids who are going through what the circumstances that I went through. I haven't really brainstormed what that would look like, but it's something that I think will bring me so much joy and fulfillment in my life, because if I can give back, to my environment, who I am, and never forget where I come from, I think that'll keep me aligned. Um, and yeah, I think there was one other thing, but and so the music is a big part of my journey, and I'm so passionate about it. But I want to do something with music. I just don't know what it is yet. I actually a coach, part of our program that you guys have actually had on, gave me an idea. I've never so Zach gave me an idea recently on Instagram. We've been talking back and forth. I've never personally connected with him, but he gave me an idea that struck up another idea, and I kind of want to start curating maybe playlists for my clients, something along the lines of that. But we'll see if that comes in the future.
Wow. You've already accomplished so much, and you're working on a book, you want to do a podcast, you want to have a charity to give back to the community, because based on what you've been through, and then you want to get more involved in music. There's just so much. This is incredible. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Kevin, you and I share just same passion and love for music. We talked about that. I saw that you had or your cast coaching has a Spotify playlist. It's so interesting you said that, because I, also curate playlists for my clients, and love just providing them with different music, and or if they're going through something, like pointing them in a certain direction. But music has been a huge part of my life. Tell me a little bit about that, like why did you create that, and then also, who are some of your favorite artists?
Yeah, I love that. I love that question. Obviously, music was like my first love, if you will, my first passion. And it still is. I think music is like the universal language of the world almost. It's so special. I can talk about it for days. I'm actually so grateful and glad that you noticed that on my link tree because I feel like it's kind of tucked away. So maybe I gotta do a better job of making that more apparent. But I created that. I actually had that playlist before I ever started the coaching thing. And my description on it is like music that promotes like introspection and in a beautiful, imaginative, creative way. And I think that's what I've been aligned to. I'm sort of multifaceted now when it comes to my music taste, but I'm a huge hip hop head, and I've always loved songs that just had like deep, reflective, personal lyrics that shared some of these artists' stories. Similar to what I said in the beginning, right? Like I didn't have a strong presence in my household, a strong father presence, but I had people that like I was aligned with, and it was a lot of these artists, and a lot of like athletes, and I feel like I am very much aligned to who people are behind their art or behind their product or behind whatever it is. I feel like I want to know what your story is. I want to know where you come from, and that's what I was so to answer the last part of that question, some of my favorite artists are J.Cole, Kendrick, and Drake. I am probably the biggest J.Cole fan you'll ever meet in life. I've seen him about 10 times. I can tell you everything about his story. I hope to meet him one day. I've met sort of two of the people I've idolized recently, and that has been such an incredible journey. But I liked Drake way before I ever liked J. Cole. And once I got, once I discovered Cole and everything that he was about, music is just a plus. I am aligned to the character that he has, the mindset that he has, how he prioritizes family, and all those good kind of qualities and virtues. But yeah, I mean, music. I always tell people I can be trapped in a box as long as I have music. I'm gonna be okay. It's almost like it's gonna sound kind of crazy, but it's like we need to breathe to be able to live, and I feel like I need music too on top of that because it's so special. It's been a special part of my journey. I feel like people always ask me, how are you able to bounce back from a setback so quick, or how are you able to like regulate your emotions so quick? I feel like we all as human beings have to have sort of a deep self-belief in something, right? A foundation that kind of holds you together. And I think music is that for me. So
Amazing. I first of all love J. Cole too. I saw him a couple times, but more recently in Vegas. And I will follow him and his music wherever he goes. He is just phenomenal. And don't even get me started on Kendrick. I love Drake. I love all of them. So shout out to J. Cole because that's both of one of our faves. So J. Cole, if you're ever listening, hit us up.
absolutely, that would be insane.
Amazing. I know, right? That would literally be insane.
Yeah.
But no, just thank you so much for sharing. And I feel the same way about music. Like I couldn't live without it. I'd say there's only a few things I can't live without, and so it's probably my kids and music and water.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can't forget that.
No,
Yeah,
but
it sounds like that's how you feel your soul, Kevin, is through music. I mean, through many different ways, but through music. And it's incredible. Where can people find you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm on just to answer kind of add on to that, but it definitely is music. I wanted to share a few other things I do to kind of feel my soul in an effort to rest and slow down my mind and things like that. But I'm so big on like having a gratitude journal now, right? Meditating. I've been trying to do a better job of meditating right before my sessions. And meditating, making it a practice, right? Making it a daily habit, which I think is a challenge for a lot of people, myself included. Um, I've been leaning into body scanning recently as part of meditation, or even outside of that, especially for my some of the stomach troubles. I think it's helped. I think also reflecting, like coaching myself, even right, asking myself questions, digging deeper. I think being creative, hitting the gym still. I've kicked up my reading journey a lot this year. I think I've read like 12 or 13 books, and I have a whole list of others that I want to do, that I want to read. But music for sure, I think is the go-to, right? It's so accessible. Throw your headphones on, and then I think watching an interview or podcast, I think that fuels my soul. It keeps me kind of in that creative space of learning. I am obsessed with progression. I'm obsessed with learning, equally as obsessed with impacting others. So those are some of the other things that I do to fuel my soul. and my social medias and everywhere I'm at will encompass all of those things. So people can find me at Cast Coaching, CAST Coaching, Instagram and TikTok. My name, Kevin Castillo, on LinkedIn. I've been trying to do a better job of being on there more, and possibly a few other mediums in the future. I know we've got that Threads thing now. Maybe a podcast in the future, but Cast Coaching is where you'll find me. And my door's always open, by the way. I'm happy to meet new people and chat with anybody.
Thank you so much. Everything stood out, but the to-be list, that's amazing. I'm going to start my to-be list right away. I stopped doing to-do lists a long time ago, just because of the anxiety that it can lead to and the disappointment when we don't finish the to-do list. So the to-be list is a huge takeaway for me, and I hope others can join me on that journey.
Absolutely. It's so incredible. I actually have a whole excerpt about it on my book, so I can't wait to share that with the world. But I love that.
I can't wait to read your book. So please let us know. Any literary agents that are out there, please reach out to Kevin because we need to get this book published. Thank you so much. This interview fueled my soul. And I truly mean that. Like I am lit up just from hearing everything that you talked about. I mean, I learned so much, so many takeaways in this interview. So just so much gratitude. Thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your passions and all that you do.
Thank you both. I mean, likewise, thank you for creating the space, for having me. I think you both are doing incredible work. I mean, I'm super observant, and like I said, I'm a student, so I've been watching all the episodes, and I know that this is going to impact so many people alone, coupled with all the other stuff that you guys are doing. So, I mean, it brings me great joy and gratitude to be here, and I can't wait to connect again, hopefully in person someday. But thank you both for the space. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. And to everyone, have a wonderful Sunday, and hopefully this fueled your soul for the week. Have a great day.